Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk. My name is Yinan. I'm an assistant professor at University of Memphis. I'm honored to present our paper at Stacker, which is titled, What Determines the Helpfulness of the Review, a Vote Level Analysis. This is a joint work with Dezhi at the University of South Florida and Warut at McGill University. Let me first introduce the background of our study. As we all know, online reviews play an important role in consumers' purchase decision-making. Despite their huge information value, the exploding number of available reviews can easily overwhelm consumers and present a challenge of information overload. To address this challenge, most review platforms implement review evaluation systems through which prospective consumers of a product can evaluate the helpfulness of its review. And such evaluation systems enable review platforms to identify and promote the most helpful reviews and to help consumers improve the efficiency of their decision-making. Accordingly, there's a stream of empirical studies focusing on what constitutes a helpful review. These studies typically collect the total number of helpful and unhelpful votes to capture review helpfulness at the review level. And they examine how review and the reviewer characteristics impact the review helpfulness. An implicit assumption in this literature is that prospective consumers are casting votes based on their perception of the review's helpfulness or value in facilitating their purchase decisions. Thus, the votes aggregated at the review level in the form of a helpfulness ratio can accurately represent review helpfulness. While this assumption was taken largely as granted, recent studies have started to cast doubts on its validity. Specifically, voters' helpfulness evaluation of the review is not only determined by the review's or reviewers' characteristics, but also shaped by voters' initial beliefs, which result in a confirmation bias. However, these investigations were also conducted at the review level, and any voter-related heuristics and biases are implied rather than directly tested. So in this study, we take advantage of a unique vote level dataset and systematically investigate 6 heuristics that voters may rely on in review helpfulness evaluation. Next, let's talk about our hypothesis development. There are 3 sources of voter-related heuristics: the relationship between the voter and the review, voter themselves, and the relationship between the voter and the reviewer. Accordingly, we classified the voter-related heuristics into 3 categories: review-related heuristic, voters' characteristics, and voter-reviewer relationship. First, the helpfulness vote of the review readers may be influenced by 2 review-related heuristics. The first one is confirmation bias. Consumers should have formed an initial belief of the product based on its average rating, which is usually prominently displayed on the review platforms alongside the product. And they tend to perceive the reviews that confirms their initial beliefs as more helpful. We therefore hypothesize that review readers are less likely to cast a helpful vote for a review that deviates more from the average rating. Second, review readers may also demonstrate a bandwagon effect in their helpfulness votes, which refers to people's tendency to hop on the bandwagon and follow the beliefs and actions of others, regardless of their own judgment. In the context of online review, previous studies document that consumers' reading of the product is heavily influenced by the average prior rating. Similarly, when evaluating reviews' helpfulness, people may cast a vote consistently with prior votes. We therefore hypothesize that review readers are more likely to cast a helpful vote for the review that has received more favorable vote previously. Next, voters' own characteristics may also influence their votes independent of the review content. First, review readers may have a general tendency of voting reviews favorably or unfavorably, and such a tendency can influence their vote of a new review. This pattern is caused by cognitive inertia, namely, people tend to make judgment as efficiently as possible to reduce effort for deliberation. They therefore turn to their past experience. So we propose that review readers who have casted more favorable votes previously are more likely to cast a helpful vote for a review. Second, review readers' tendency to evaluate reviews more favorably or unfavorably may also change as they gain more experience writing their own reviews. As people gain more experience or expertise in the domain themselves, their evaluation standard may become less strict as they learn more about the challenges and difficulties of that domain. So we propose review readers with more experience writing reviews themselves are more likely to cast a helpful vote for a review. Review readers' voting tendency may also be influenced by their relationship with the reviewer who wrote the review. Many review platforms allow reviewers to follow each other, and followers have been reviewed to play a critical role in the propagation and diffusion of social media messages because the following relationship indicates trust. In our context, when a consumer follows the reviewers of the review, the consumer should have more trust in the reviewer and subsequently evaluate the reviewer's content more favorably. Therefore, we propose review readers who follow the reviewer of the review are more likely to cast a helpful vote for the review. On the other hand, when a consumer voting on the review is followed by the reviewer, we argue that the consumer is also more likely to read the review as helpful because of reciprocity. When a consumer is followed by the reviewer of the review, she may feel obligated to pay back the reviewer's trust. And the way to do so is to vote the reviewer's review favorably. So we hypothesize that review readers who are followed by the reviewer of the review are more likely to cast a helpful vote for the review. To answer the above-mentioned research question, we collaborated with a large restaurant review platform in Asia. The platform provided us with a rich data set that includes information on first, reviews generated during the period from January to March 2016. Second, historical review generating behavior of users who wrote reviews or casted a vote for the reviews generated during the focal period. And third, time-stamped review reading log, and fourth, time-stamped vote casting behavior. We construct a vote level data set with each observation being a reading record of the review generated in our focal study period. We include 4 sets of independent variables. The first set of independent variables captures the review characteristics, including the universal examined review length and the review text readability. Following previous literature, we use the absolute difference between the rating of the focal review and the average rating obtained by the focal restaurant to capture the impact of confirmation bias. We use the ratio of the number of upvotes to the number of total votes obtained by the focal review to test the potential bandwagon effect. Second, voters' tendency of voting reviews favorably or unfavorably is measured by the ratio of the number of upvotes to the number of total votes casted by him or herself. To measure voters' experience of writing their own reviews, we include the number of reviews generated by the focal voter. The relationship between the voter and the reviewer is measured by a dummy variable, which indicates if there's any type of a following relationship between them. All the voter-related heuristics are calculated using data prior to the focal view or vote. Additionally, following previous literature, we also control for the impact of reviewer characteristics and restaurant characteristics. Now let's talk about our analysis and result. After reading the review, the platform users typically go through 2 steps to cast a vote. First, they decide whether to cast a vote for the review or not. Second, if they decided to vote, then they determine whether to vote up or vote down. We therefore use a sequential logic model, which models a process wherein decisions are made in a sequence of stages to examine the user's voting and evaluating behavior at both stages. Accordingly, the first dependent variable is vote, a dummy variable indicating whether the user casted a vote after reading a review. For observations where votes takes value 1, the second dependent variable is vote up, indicating whether the vote is an upvote or downvote. In this table, we present the result of our sequential logic regression. The first 2 columns show the result of regression that only include review, reviewer, and restaurant characteristics. The column 2 shows the result for the second state of evaluation decision, that is of our main interest. The results are largely consistent with previous literature. For example, we find an inverted U-shaped relationship between the review length and helpfulness. Namely, reviews with moderate length are perceived as being more helpful. Columns 3 and 4 show the result of models that incorporate voter-related heuristics in the control variables. First, consistent with previous studies on confirmation bias, we observed negatively significant coefficients of a reviewed rating diff at both stages. Namely, a rating that deviates from the product's average rating is perceived as being less helpful. So our hypothesis 1 is supported. Second, we find that the review that have obtained more upvotes among all votes are more likely to be positively voted if the viewer decides to vote, indicating a bandwagon effect. Hence, hypothesis 2 is supported. Next, the ratio of number of upvotes to the number of total votes casted by the voter previously is also positively related to the probability of the voter casting an upvote for the focal review, indicating that the upvoting behavior is influenced by the voter's inherent tendency of providing favorable evaluation. So hypothesis 3 is supported. Furthermore, users who have engaged with more through writing many reviews in the past are more likely to upvote for others' reviews, which lends support for our hypothesis 4. Lastly, the dummy variable follow shows positively significant impact on helpfulness vote, lending support to our hypothesis 5 and 6. So we made further comparison between the impact of review characteristics and that of voter-related heuristics. First, we observed that the pseudo R-square in column 4 is more than triple that in column 2, indicating that incorporating voter-level heuristics improves the model significantly. Second, we incorporate all the independent variables in the last two columns. Then we conduct a Warut test to compare the effect size of the different variables. The result shows that the voter-related heuristics have significantly larger effect on vote up than the review characteristics. Then we conduct the robustness checks to further verify our findings. First, we conduct a falsification test to provide further evidence of the bandwagon effect. In this test, we expect that the bandwagon effect increases over time. The rationale behind is that voters are less influenced by the herding effect at the beginning of the review generation, since there exists not much reference information. To test this time-varying effect, we incorporate the interaction terms between review upvote ratio and the hour dummies into the mean model. According to the results shown in this table, the impact of the review upvote ratio increases from hour 1 to hour 5, indicating the existence of the bandwagon momentum. Second, we test the impact of different types of follow behavior, which are captured by dummies, mutual follow, namely a dummy indicating that the voter and the reviewer are mutually following each other, and the voter is following the reviewer, and a dummy voter is followed by the reviewer, respectively. This table shows that the result that the following activities positively affect a user's helpfulness vote casting are robust to different types of following behavior. Now let's conclude this paper with some discussion. This study aims to extend previous studies on review helpfulness to the vote level analysis and systematically investigate diverse biases and heuristics of voters when it cast a helpful vote. We provide initial direct evidence of that voter level biases and heuristics play an important role in the review reader's vote of review helpfulness. And this result casts a doubt on the intuitive assumption that helpfulness vote of the review are accurate representation of a consumer's perception of the review helpfulness. That's all about this paper. Thank you for your time.